Admit all. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Hi. Lacey's already got the jazz hands going. Good morning. It is the top of the hour, everyone. Hello. Welcome to the Catholic National Athletic Association retreat. This is our retreat. This is how we retreat these days, right? There's Suzanne, Maeve. Hi, Maeve. Hi, Suzanne. Molly.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
Jennifer. Hi, Jen. How are you? And Carrie. Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, good morning. Thank you for being here. As we ease into this day, this time, welcoming you all to this event, as you know, sponsored by the Catholic National Athletic Association as part of its winter retreat. We will start with prayer as we enter into the Advent season. And as we all settle in. So please, please, please take your time, be at ease. And I'm going to take from, well, kind of like my holy book, which is my planner. So, so as we begin, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. As we gather in this culture of sports, in the struggles and in the triumphs of how we experience our days, how we see the face of God in every one of our colleagues, in every one of our students, in every one of our athletes, and even in their parents. We see the face of God in this season of Advent, as we are waiting for the birth of the baby Jesus, in the darkness, in the blackness of Mother Mary's womb, we are going to reclaim that time of waiting. We are going to reclaim that time of blackness as holy, as we wait, as we prepare. And in that spirit, we take that fierce passion and the waiting into the work that we do in our conversation, in our compassion with one another. For this fierceness, we pray. Amen. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. All right. Hello, folks.
Yes, finally.
Bringing it. Okay. Welcome again to those of you coming in. Welcome. I'm going to pass it on to Jen and let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Brooks. I'm excited to be here today to chat with you about the power of being the only woman in the room, life as a female athletic director. So let me tell you first a little bit about myself if you don't know me. I'm the athletic director at Ursuline Academy. I've been at Ursuline for 28 years. I've been the AD here for 26 years. I'm the mentor coordinator for the state of Missouri, which means I mentor roughly 150 new athletic directors each year. I love that because basically it's a female mentoring mostly male ADs. So I think that perspective is good and I enjoy that opportunity. I'm also the founder of the global community of women in high school sports. And so I'll tell you about that later. Let me tell you a little bit about my family real quick. So on the picture is my daughter, Nora, my husband, Don, and then my son, Luke, he's to the right. I'll start off by saying that I couldn't do this job if it wasn't for a supportive partner in my husband. We've been married for 26 years. He supports me, and I appreciate that. My daughter, Nora, she was the athlete of the two kids. She's also one of my coaches on my staff. So it's nice to have this person in my life who says to me, hey, Mom, I'm not sure you're doing this the best you can do. Or have you thought about doing it this way? Or, hey, you're doing really good. So to have a coach on staff who is willing to challenge me and support me is awesome. My son Luke is probably the least athletic, but here's the thing: he won a state championship his junior year in high school. He's on football, and it was my desire to win a state championship for years as an athlete, as a coach, as an AD. That I never had that. And when he won it, it taught me that life is more than winning state championships, because he was like, this is not a big deal. So I appreciate the perspectives and support that my family has given me. Okay, so like I said, I'm at Ursuline. I'm on the We Coach panel. I'm the NIAAA mentoring program, and I'm the mentoring coordinator for the state of Missouri. I'm also the founder of the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. So the Global Community is a premier leadership organization for women in sports. Check us out. Carolyn's going to put the website in the chats. This organization takes a proactive role in advancing women into leadership positions in the world of high school athletics. Everyone, male, female, whoever you are, you're invited to be a part of this community. I saw a need for space for women to connect and network and support each other, as well as to include men in this network. This job is certainly requires a partnership, of which I'll touch on later. All right, so let me be clear. This is not a woe is me story. Don't feel bad for me. I feel empowered when I'm the only woman in the room. I appreciate the opportunity for me to share with you my perspective as the only woman in the room, to provide some strategies and tips for working together and to be a strong advocate for yourself, no matter who you are. So I grew up the daughter of a high school football coach. I was on my dad's sidelines many games and followed him around pre and post games. Being a female, that meant most of the time I sat outside or in the hallway by myself, because of course, going into the locker room or even the coach's office, because you had to go through the locker room to get to the coach's office, was off limits to me. In retrospect, that sure seemed to foreshadow how I felt in my career as a high school athletic director. Not always invited in, even purposely excluded, because I was not, nor will I ever be, a member of the good old boys club. I'm not here to malign or slander men in any way. Men work their butts off, yes, but they still have a privilege I as a female never had. And that privilege is like a tailwind. So think about that for a second. Privilege is a tailwind, and these men, simply because they are men, have massive tailwinds pushing them forward. I'm not blaming or shaming anyone here. This is an opportunity to learn and create awareness for everyone. I can tell you, I didn't grow up thinking I wanted to be a high school athletic director, probably because all of the athletic directors I had or knew, well, they were men. I often say I never had someone that looked like me coach me. I never had a female coach, female athletic director. Think about it. I played 3 sports in high school. I played 3 sports in college, and I never had a female coach. As an athletic director, I'm often one of a few or the only woman in a room or a meeting. When I enter a room and people don't know me, I've often been asked, am I in the right place? I've walked into rooms full of men and they don't acknowledge me or even welcome me, but they surely do to the gentleman who's walking in behind me. I've had male officials ask me where the athletic director is. When I was coaching, the head coach of my opponents most often approached my male assistant thinking he was the head coach. I could go on. You see, once I realized I had a choice to let these situations intimidate me or to use it to my advantage, I realized there could be power in this situation. So I chose the latter. I've experienced my fair discrimination. I'm sure you all have. But with time, the more I saw it coming, the better prepared I was to, 1, not let it hurt me as bad, and 2, inspire me to find my voice and help others find our seats at the table. I became aware that I needed to use my position as the only to benefit other women, those who couldn't be in the room or at the table. I no longer think of myself as the only woman in the room, but rather the first. So step into my shoes for a second. Allow me to share with you what it's like when I walk into a room for a meeting, what it looks like when we sit at the table. What do we see? How do we feel when we walk into a room that we are the only woman in the room? So this is me on most days, at most meetings, the only woman in the room. And I like to share a couple of experiences, actual experiences that have happened to me, to give you a glimpse of what it looks like to be a female athletic director. So I go to the national conference every year, and I'm so excited to go this year. But before I had this wonderful network of women in my life, I would always bring my husband Don with me because I felt so alone and lonely and miserable at these conventions. I love the learning piece. I didn't love the social networking piece. And so Don would come with me, and he'd like to go to the exhibit hall. So he would have his badge that said Don Brooks, spouse, guest, whatever. Okay. Mine said Jen Brooks, athletic director. And we would walk through that vendor hall, and every single vendor without fail would go to my husband first. Unacceptable. We had a joke that he would always, as soon as it happened, he'd be like, oh, the boss is right there. And in which case I would turn around and say, well, you just lost that sale. So when I think about it, when I walk through the maze of vendors at these conferences, whether state level, national level, whatever, I truly feel invisible. That maze of vendors is a painful reminder for me that I don't fit the narrative of what it looks like, what people think an athletic director looks like. At these events, I've had vendors try to sell me things for football or baseball, things I don't need because I work at an all-girls school. I've been told on more than one occasion that must suck, working at an all-girls school, because girls' sports are boring and not as good as boys' sports. Not as good as boys' sports. This is a sentiment I face every day. And while it may be their reality, I have the added responsibility as a woman in sport, and really as a woman in general, to broaden their perception. I have the opportunity to create awareness and educate them that there is a better way to address me, to view girls' sports, and to hear the female perspective. I must change the narrative. Okay, so have you ever walked into a room or a meeting and felt instantly like you don't belong? I have. For many women, particularly those of us who work in the male-dominated industry like high school sports, meetings can be dreadful events. Think about it. Men rarely walk into a room with concerns as, do I belong here? Will there be space for me at the table? Will anyone even notice I'm here? In most cases, men typically don't have those concerns. As a man, the assumption is that there will be a spot for them at the table. As a man, they expect to speak up and be heard. As a man, they are rarely interrupted. Historically speaking, meetings have been comfortable man spaces. For years, I've attended meetings, local, state, national level, and they were really hard for me. They were honestly dreadful events. I had knots in my stomach. I always stood for such a long period of time in front of my closet. What should I wear to this meeting? Should I put on my athletic gear? Should I dress up? Is it too much if I wear a bracelet? Is it too sloppy if I wear a sweatshirt? So it's extremely important for me to create awareness, especially for men, on what it's like when we are the only woman in the room. It's crucial that they see and hear what it looks like and feels like to be a woman, because I'm fairly confident my male comrades don't stand in front of their closets asking themselves those questions. Okay, this is one of my favorite things to talk to you about. So all of our experiences, specifically in this case, my experience as the only woman in the room, comes with our own perception of it, okay? Perception is defined as the way you see something or understand something. So allow me to share two of my favorite stories about my son, Luke. So my son, Luke, he's 21. He towers over me. He's 6'4". He's an awesome young man. But the two stories I'm going to tell you are when he was younger. Okay. So the picture that you see is from when Luke was in high school, and his school had a dress up day, meaning dress shirt and tie. My husband and I had already left for the day, and my daughter was away at college. So Luke sent me a text with this picture that you see and asked me if it matches. Look at that picture. Of course it does not match. But you see, Luke is colorblind, and he thought it matched, and he thought it looked good. When Luke went away to college, as he is right now, he sends me pictures of the meat and he's trying to brown because he can't tell if it's pink or not. You see, we're looking at the exact same thing and we see it completely different. I feel that on so many levels. One more quick story about Luke, but jump back to me now. He's 5 years old. He's getting ready to go to kindergarten, and we need to get his hearing tested for school. So the nurse takes Luke back to the testing room, and I'm standing there with him, and she tells him, okay, every time you hear a ding, raise your hand. Okay, simple enough. The nurse puts the headphones on him and begins the test. I can tell she's pressing the buttons, but he's not raising his hand. Okay, I told myself, don't worry about it. The test continues. The nurse continues to press buttons, and he's still not raising his hand. Now I'm thinking about all the times when I thought he could hear me, but chose to ignore me. Maybe he really didn't hear me. He couldn't hear me. I don't know. The test continues. And with his headphones on, I can hear the beep. It's that loud. The nurse looks at me with some obvious concern for what we are perceiving. The nurse takes off Luke's headphones and says, now remember, you need to raise your hand every time you heard a ding. You never raised your hand. Does that mean you didn't hear anything? My little 5-year-old looks her in the eyes and said, I heard bings, but not dings. We heard the same instruction and the same test noises, yet we both perceived it differently. Perceptions. So as a woman in sport, I often deal with perceptions, those assumptions people make about me without having one conversation with me. What are some of the preconceived notions, these misperceptions I've observed as a woman in sports? Well, it starts with this, the dual-edged sword that I'm perceived as either too masculine or too feminine all at the same time. Women are just not as interested in athletics as men are. I have had someone say to me that if you have a male coach and a female coach with teams of equal talent, the male coach will win every time. Female coaches aren't capable of winning because they care too much about feelings. These are things people have told me. Male officials, I assume I don't know the rules of the game and proceed to mansplain them to me. I appreciate that. Not. Male parents assume that I have little to no knowledge or expertise when it comes to their daughter as a student athlete. The irony is laughable. Women are naturally inferior to men in terms of strength and speed, so therefore women just can't be as good at sports as men. Women's sports are not interesting. Women don't know or understand sports, especially the real sports like football, hockey, or wrestling. A woman's place is on the sideline. I love to use this visual. The great Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, the very talented dancing duo. Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards and in high heels. As women, we're expected to perform at least as well as our male colleagues, but without pointing out why what we are doing is actually more challenging. We sit shoulder to shoulder with our male colleagues doing the same job, but with a higher degree of difficulty. And that's the game changer. See, we must navigate landmines of these preconceived notions and biases that our male counterparts simply don't. We're often treated as visitors in this male space called sports. You know, when you say the word coach or athletic director, very rarely is that vision in your mind that of a female. Let's change that. You know, I always say if you didn't know me and I had a gender fluid name and you hear my name and know that I'm an athletic director, the image of what I look like in your mind probably would be that of a man. I'm not here to apologize that in most cases, I don't fit your narrative. Let me share with you one of the most important life lessons being a high school coach, athletic director has taught me. I will no longer allow other people's perceptions of me define me. C.S. Lewis said, what you see and what you hear depends a great deal on where you are standing. It also depends on what sort of person you are. So I invite you to stand with me as we redefine, reimagine, and change the narrative of what it looks like to be a woman in sports. So sitting at the table, you know, because I don't fit the narrative, we don't fit the narrative. Here's what I feel, here's what it feels like when I attend a meeting or at the table or sit at the table when I'm one of the few women in the room. So we're often mistaken as someone's assistant. We often have to sit through sexist conversations. We're expected to be one of the guys while also maintaining a level of femininity. Our colleagues interrupt us or talk over us during the meeting. Our best ideas are often passed off as someone else's. We're made to feel like we need to apologize for taking up space, being assertive, or simply doing our job. We're outnumbered, and as a result, feel threatened to express our views, to provide our leadership, to sit comfortably at the table where we belong. Double standards abound. You know, here's another thought. Many male ADs and coaches have had their fathers that were ADs or coaches, and certainly that has helped them on their career path through name association. If they know you are so-and-so's son, they may put your name at the top of the list. With females, and specifically me, for instance, my dad was an AD and he's still coaching, but because I don't use my maiden name, there is no automatic name association or benefit. I don't get to ride my dad's reputation as easily as the men. So sitting at the table, I often feel like I need to put my war paint on. You know, we may have the same title, but being a male, my male peers have an advantage because of these preconceived perspectives, hence the double standard. You know, this bias is often exposed in the way a woman is described. When a woman asserts herself, for example, she's speaking in a different style or promoting her ideas, she's often called aggressive or ambitious. But when a man does the same thing, he's seen as confident or strong. And this is called a likability penalty. This means that as men get more successful and powerful, both men and women like them better. As women get more powerful and successful, people of both genders like them less. We need to challenge this likability penalty. Success and likability are positively correlated for men, yet negatively for women. Women face social penalties for acting in the very way that leads to power and success. The moment a woman steps forward and says, I want to run for office, or some type of leadership position, it begins with the analysis of her face, her body, her voice, her demeanor, the diminishment of her stature, her ideas, her accomplishments, her integrity. It can be unbelievably cruel. We never or rarely do this with males. I challenge you today to challenge the likability penalty. I often joke that I have a superpower, that when I walk into meetings and I'm never acknowledged, I know that my superpower is kicked in, because apparently my superpower, I've just become invisible, and that's my superpower. Being invisible is my superpower. But important note here, I found my kryptonite to fight my invisibility. I found my voice. I have no intention of screaming or yelling. That's not me. I simply want to share my story to create awareness, because by doing that, enlightening you all, by having conversations with you, we all learn, we all grow. And this is a call to action, an opportunity for growth for everyone. Okay, so we've identified the problem, the situation. Let's work on creating a different outcome. So here are some ideas, suggestions, and call to action items for both men and women. Stop labeling. Don't allow yourself to be labeled by anyone other than you. I've learned that as a woman, I'm often labeled. People make many assumptions about me before they have even one conversation with me. So to those of you who are being labeled, assertive, keep being assertive. Bossy, keep leading. Difficult, keep telling the truth. Too much, keep taking up space. Awkward, keep asking the hard questions. Another thing I want to talk about is language. Let's be aware of our language. You know, common vocabulary refers to the male gender as the default, mailman, delivery man, etc. Many words are not gender neutral. And male specific language like guys is not something that usually be used when speaking to me. You know, you may think male words are inclusive, but you wouldn't feel the same about female words. Female words do not enjoy the same privilege. Consider this: calling a mixed gender group you gals would be extraordinary, even unacceptable. Think about that. You would never call a mixed gender group you gals, but you say you guys all the time. A woman might be hey man, but a man is never hey woman. According to the dictionary, the definition of the word guy is a man. I'm not a guy. I'm not a man. Don't call me guy, or expect me to be one of the guys, or ask me to man up. Failing to acknowledge me as a woman by using a male catch-all phrase shows that you don't respect who I am as a woman. Words are important. Instead, choose words like folks, people, everyone, all of you all are my favorite, all y'all. Okay, I will remind you, all of you, you are stronger than you think. I'll say it again, and this time I really want you to believe it. You are stronger than you think. And this applies to everyone, no matter your gender. It took me so long, too long, to find my voice, to find my confidence. It's still a work in progress, but I'm here today to remind you, it's not only important for you to find your voice for yourself, but also for the young women and young men that you coach. They're looking for you to model what it looks like to be a woman in sports. I'll tell you this: if my strength intimidates you, I hope you realize that is a weakness of yours. Be strong. I learned that it's time to unsubscribe from doubt and decide to be confident. I believe confidence is a choice, and it's perfected over time and through experiences. I choose to be confident. Okay, this applies to everyone. How do we become confident? You must decide to be confident. Overcome your anxiety and self-doubt. Be confident even when you aren't. There's a reason you've been included in this group or meeting. Remind yourself of that. Remind yourself that you're good at what you do. And know that there are peers out there, men and women, who also believe in you. I believe in you. And keep in mind, confidence is not walking into the room with your nose in the air thinking that you're better than anyone else. Rather, it's walking into the room and not feeling the need to compare yourself to anyone. That is confidence. Speak with confidence and never stop speaking. I raise my voice, not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. So taking your rightful seat at the table will most likely require you to get out of your comfort zone, to become fearless. Embrace it. How do you become fearless? You start with finding your voice. Speak up for yourself and all of the other women who can't be at the table. It's okay to say no and provide a different perspective. Allow for your confidence to override your fears. If you must, feel the fear and do it anyway. So why should you want me to sit at your table? Hold on, let me see. I think I went too fast. No, there we go. Why should you want me to sit at your table? Because I know you understand the value of a different voice, a different perspective. The people at your table should reflect the society, the group, the people it represents. Diversity at your table advances change and innovation. Because I've proven over and over again that I will defy the odds. So will you. By allowing me at your table, I can help build a culture where everyone feels like they have a voice. You have a responsibility because you're at a table for a party larger than one. Moving forward, we move forward, we make progress, we create change when we work together. We're in fact the best versions of ourselves when we are united. So what does moving forward together look like? It starts with allyship. Webster's dictionary defines allyship as the state or condition of being an ally, a supportive association with another person or group. I recognize that there are many males out there who also are our allies, without a doubt, and they want us to succeed. They want us at their table. They need us at their table. Nurture those male allies, those relationships with those male allies. They're out there rooting for you and they're willing to support you. And I appreciate all those men that allow me and help me sit at the table. Find all the people who share your interest and are willing to pound the table for you. Make it clear you welcome their support and that you support them and their interests as well. It's a two-way street. That's important to remember. These allies are essential in creating space where you can stand up and be heard and they can provide support. I'm here today on this journey of creating space for all, in part for the help from some of my male allies. I say this often, men don't know what they don't experience. I mean, that's true for anybody. You don't know what you don't experience. The missing ingredient in gender equity is men. So the question I always ask of men is this: how are you creating space and opening doors for women? Go ahead to the women in your life and women on this call, ask the men in your life this question. If our male peers don't know where to begin or how to help, I have some suggestions. When I speak to my male peers, I remind them that I remind them now that we've created awareness that we're in the room, they need to hear us. You need to recognize the value in our voice and ask the woman in the room about their experiences and learn from them. Be aware of who's in the room and who is not. And then use your male privilege to make space for us. I challenge men to dissenter. Dissenter is the understanding that men take up more space than women, like literally. So I remind my male peers to be aware of their space. So often women are regulated to the back of the room or the outside of the main circle. Don't allow that to happen anymore. Compared to women, men tend to talk more and make more suggestions in meetings. We have suggestions as well. So to the men, I say, seek out our counsel, seek out our perspective. Our male peers need to use their male capita to direct attention to the females in the room. Women are interrupted more and given less credit for their ideas. Let us speak and acknowledge our point of view. Listen generously. Simply listen with the intent to listen and understand and not respond. All ideas need to be heard. If a female colleague is interrupted, interject and say you would like for her to finish. Build a network that includes women. Show genuine respect for their accomplishments and talent. The really cool thing is this becomes a reciprocal relationship. Be deliberate about your inclusion. Invite, but don't pressure. If you see something, say something. Allyship is a continued learning process. And I remind men that simply by being a hashtag girl dad does not make them an ally. Their words and actions are far more important and stronger than any hashtag. We can't ignore the need for women to support women. And honestly, I think there's a lot more room for improvement here. My new favorite t-shirt says, as strong as the woman next to me. Real change comes when we stick together, when we cheer each other on. There is real power in women supporting women. J. Courtney Sullivan, a New York Times bestselling author, said, something I come back to again and again is the idea that the moment a woman is born determines so much of who she's allowed to become. As a woman, working with other women, leading other women, what are you doing to determine that the woman you are working with, the woman you are leading, all women are allowed to become their own wonderful, undeterred versions of themselves? To all of you, I say, we have to do better, be better for each other, empower each other. I'm not telling you to pretend to be one of the guys, but instead proudly own that you're able to join the conversation. You can find allies almost anywhere you look, within your school, workplace, and beyond, but it takes consistent effort to create and maintain such connections. The strongest alliances are built on mutual trust and respect. So you need to be willing to support other people and accept that they won't always be there or accept you. Actively pursue finding community. When you do this, you will find your allies. Most importantly, I've learned to ask myself, what am I doing to encourage and support the next generation of female athletic directors, coaches, and all women in sports? For one thing, if they can see me, they can be me. I recognize I'm in a position to create a cultural shift in the public's perception of women in sports, most especially by increasing the visibility of women in sports. I take that responsibility seriously, and I'm most grateful for opportunities like this where I can share my story. So the question to you all is this: how can you better serve women in sports? How can you be a difference maker? Know your voice is powerful. So is your invitation. And this is your reminder to be inclusive. I thank you for your opportunity to present to you all today and hopefully chat here in a second. I confidently tell you that I no longer think of myself as the only woman in the room, but rather the first. And I cannot wait for you to join me at the table. I've got a chair with your name on it. Thank you. That is the conclusion of my presentation. I'd like to open it up for any questions, comments, any ideas.
Woohoo! If you want to unmute and release some of this wonderful goodness and energy and gratitude, please do so. We're going to pivot because that's some good stuff, and I know it's impactful. It's impactful for me, no matter how many times I hear it. If you have any questions, let's go. Let's bring it. Who wants to ask that difficult question?
And if you don't have any questions, that's fine. If you have comments, ideas, thoughts, I'm open to it all.
Jen, this is Kelly Stull, who's one of your mentees.
Hi, Kel.
How are you? I just want to say thanks. I actually was captive in my car, and it was a great pep-up talk, and I got to hear everything you said, so I'm just grateful because now I'm standing a little taller and my shoulders are straighter, so it's interesting, and I haven't been in that as long as you, so thank you for letting me invite myself, and thank you for your great wisdom.
Yay.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you, Kelly. All right, Jennifer. Hi.
I was not prepped to be on, as you can see, on a camera today. I was just going to listen but it's phenomenal. I've only recently met Jen, and I just wanted to, in the spirit of, Jen, your quote about, standing, you're only as powerful as the woman standing next to you, right? Just to sit on here. I'm not an athletic director, but I work with girls, females, and many times their coaches are primarily male yet. it's coming. My age group, I'm 48, played a lot of sports. So slowly but surely women are integrating into the coaching part as well. And so getting those perspectives. And I can't, all those experiences, Jen, that you had from referees, walking over to my my male assistants, asking them questions when I was the head coach sometimes needing to be the only female in the room in a different way, is still there. It's changing a bit, but only with efforts like this and awareness and, frankly, mindset about it, being highly aware of kind of how that works, can make sure. And the girl dad thing really got me. I work with, of course, the coaches that are coaching the girls that I coach are males, and they're typically girl dads, right? And they're very, very empowered by that. And I love that. But many times some of the things that you spoke about are still not top of mind for them. And so this is just fantastic information. And I'm so glad it's being recorded because I'd like to watch it again.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, we have Suzanne in the chat who writes, thank you, Jen. Just great to hear all the same feelings and challenges. Feel like I'm hearing my story, and great to know we're not alone. So appreciate it. So there's a lot of appreciations going in the chat. And yes, folks, this will be available in the coming days by the CNAA. So yeah, these are things that I also have like in the car as my motivational talks. This is how we have to replace the self-talk maybe that we have been accustomed to, right? Which is usually in the culture of sports, that male voice, whether it's a male coach, whether it's a male parent, whether it's a sibling, those male voices, especially for those of us who find our way in sports, is quite loud, right? So how do we supplement that with our own? How do we internalize our own voice or the voices of other powerful women, colleagues with that? So I am proud to say that I love it that I've seen Jen's presentation a few times, and it's Jen's voice sometimes. That's when I got dressed this morning, people, I did not know I was gonna be in red like Jen. And my husband said, "Why are you in a dress today?" And I said, "I'm shown at 8 o'clock in front of the Catholics. So let's go." Right. And I knew Jen's energy and her presentation warranted this. Right. So I want to convey that to all of you, that the global community of women, the website is in the chat. Jen and I are always available. It really is interesting, the capacity that we have for each other when we know people need our help and support. And that is the truly eternal giving well that we, I think, need to recognize as a power that we have in our socialization, right? The expectation that we carry so much, and we've built that capacity somewhat to do that. And so I think leveraging that helps, especially when our male allies don't have a plan B if the scoreboard goes off, or if the referee doesn't show up, right? Their tailwind privilege, allows them to freak out and start blaming people. Whereas when it's happened to us before, we have plan B and maybe C and D, actually. And that comes from being excluded. That comes from not being paid attention to. We make way for ourselves. So anyone else have any questions or comments? Please, the floor is open. And Jen, please put your email in the chat. Hi, folks, I'm Carolyn. I don't think I even introduced myself. Also, my pronouns are coach. That's my pronoun. So for those of us who identify with that pronoun, in any in any sort of inclusive space, that's the energy we bring. So I encourage all of us to own that, to share that, and to celebrate that. Anyone else? Oh, I'm just loving seeing all y'all here. Early in the morning, West Coast folks, represent.
All right. Well, if you don't have any questions or comments, we won't keep anyone. I know you're all busy. I'm busy. You're busy. I appreciate you all being on the call today. You know,
I actually have a quick question,
yes,
Jen.
ma'am.
I don't think a lot of times people mean anything by it necessarily, but I understand the interpretation is not received well. When people use the generic, hey guys, just as a group, right? It's kind of something that, I'm middle-aged. That's kind of how I was raised, I don't even care if it's a group of ladies. I always say, hey guys. I don't mean anything by it, but that's just the way it is. Have you established like a list of like words or something like that we can kind of use or be mindful of as a replacement?
Yeah, for me, I'm middle-aged too, and I work in an all-girls school, and I would find myself walking up to my basketball team and saying, "Hey guys, what's going on?" I'm like, "Why would I do that? They're not guys. That's not okay." And so I'm not always perfect. I do I do falter, but I very much, am very aware of what I'm saying. And so I love to watch the Today Show. They're the worst. They always say, "Hey guys, good morning. Welcome. Hey guys, back to you." And I'm like, this is so horrible. So it's just my whole piece about creating awareness and that words are important. I use I love to say all you all, or hey everybody, or hey, hello. You don't have to say hi guys. You can just say hi, hello. Why we're adding that word guys to it? Friends.
I use the assumption of friends. I am also a fan of all y'all. And actually that was one thing also working at an all-girls school. I asked permission really of all faculty and staff, of all the adults, to that initiative. Like, can we help each other turn this around? Can we help each other be aware? And so in assemblies, in any kind of presentations, in how we help keep each other accountable, that would be really simple. So, we would establish, I had in my classes, we'd establish like a little signal, just like we do in sports, right? When we're shrugging off a mistake, or we're saying, that was a stinky move I made, or whatever, we do those same things to ask for a repeat, right? That's what we call practice, right? So we can even practice our language. So I'd like to also include different languages, non-gendered language from different people. So ask your students, ask the people around you. I think that's a good way to start. Also, if I could lift up, oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting her name. She's a professor at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Donna. Oh my gosh, Dr. Donna, who's for years done a lot of research about violent language in sports, how that's perpetuated in our sports culture, and then also gendered language in sports. So I could forward that to y'all too, but there's a lot of energy in that, because we have to start somewhere. And that's exactly what inclusivity and belonging means, is that we do the work to do that. So just yesterday, I had to tell the scorekeeper next to me at a basketball game, I had to tell him that he was mansplaining. And then I had to explain what mansplaining was to him. So I love those times. Anyone else?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the call today. You know, I'm working on creating awareness. That's my goal. I'm passionate about women in sports, passionate about creating awareness. I recognize that I will not always be sitting in this chair. So I have to say to myself, what am I doing to make the journey to this chair a lot easier for the next person that sits in it than it was for me? You know, so I appreciate all of you. I'll be in Denver. If any of you are going to be in Denver, I invite you to hang out and join us in the global community events. But everybody have a great day. Blessings on you all. You're all doing a great job. Keep it up. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.